You are capable of being a rapist. You are capable of murder. You are capable of betraying your friends. You are capable of genocide. You are capable of torturing animals and wandering through a school with an AK-47 to gun down the classmates that you've grown up with. You are capable of every single thing that another human being is capable of. One of the most interesting psychological experiments, let's call it, that I've ever heard of happened in the 1940s in Germany in World War II, where a group of ordinary men who were reserve police battalion because they were too old to go to the front line turned over the course of months and years into one of the most heinous, atrocious killing battalions that would go in after the German army and mop up the Jews, executing them all. And it's so interesting for me because these men were adults. You know, they were in their 30s and 40s. They were middle class. Some of them were working class, kind of bourgeois men who grew up before Hitler's propaganda. So it wasn't like they were indoctrinated from a young age to believe that the Jews were bad people. They had grown up with them. They worked alongside them. And so how is it that people can go from that, you know, from being your brother, your dad, your uncle, you, to being someone who's capable of, in cold blood, you know, putting a bullet through the back of the head of a naked, pregnant woman in a field outside a village? And it turns out that that happens one small step at a time. So the first job they were given was to go to a village and round up all the Jewish men between the ages of 16 and 65 and take them, herd them to a stadium where they would then be put onto trains and sent to the camps. But they weren't actually doing anything that was that bad. You know, they were just rounding up the men and putting them in the stadium, and they were very hands off. But that was the first domino that got knocked over in this journey for them. The next town they got to, and I think the commanders must have been absolute geniuses in psychology to have known how to do this, but the next town they got to, they then had to round up all the Jews, not just the men, and deliver them to the edge of the village where the German soldiers would then execute them. And as you can imagine, it didn't stop there. The next town they got to, they were then asked to do the full thing. They were said to the commander, here's what we're going to do. We're going to round up all the Jews. We're going to take them to the field. We've got a mass grave there, and you are going to execute them. But the interesting thing is that the commander gave them an out. He said to them, listen, I know this is fucking horrendous, so if any of you want to leave, you are more than welcome. There were 500 men in this battalion. How many do you think decided to take them up on that and leave to Berlin? 15. The environmental pressure of that group, the peer pressure of that group, that camaraderie energy of not wanting to look like a coward because you're not willing to, you know, roll up your sleeves and getting the difficult work done. That pressure kept 99% of these men in doing something that, you know, 6 months before they wouldn't ever have imagined that they were going to do. The way that it essentially worked is that it was a bell curve, and there was the, you know, 1 to 5% at the bottom, the conscientious objectors that said, no fucking way am I doing this. I don't care what the consequences are socially. I don't care what the consequences are to my personal life. I'm not doing it. I'm not crossing that line of integrity within myself. And then there was the massive, you know, the masses, 90% that were just, would go along with anything as long as there was enough environmental pressure. And then on the other end of the scale, there was, you know, the psychopaths, the evil cunts that actually loved doing it, and they were like, thank God, the thin veneer of civility has finally come off. And I think the interesting thing is that most of us would look at that and think, well, I'm the kind of person that would definitely not do it. I'm the conscientious objector. I'm the one that would say no to war and go to jail for 10 years. But anyways, that's not even the point. You're thinking that, you know, if me now was put back into, you know, Germany in the 1940s, that you wouldn't be the kind of person that would do that. Very unlikely statistically, but maybe we'll give you that one. That is the kind of surface level point that I'm trying to make here. But the point beneath the point is that, let's say you take one of the worst offenders, the psychopaths, one of these SS guards that fucking just loved executing Jews. If you were born into the same life as him, if you had the same family as him, if you had the same traumatic upbringing that never allowed you to open your heart and learn what, you know, love was, if you had the same peer group, if you had the same environmental, societal pressures around you as him when he was grown up, you would have done the exact same as them. And so the big idea that I'm trying to say is this: if you could feel what other people felt, if you were thinking what other people were thinking, and if you could see behind their eyes to see what they saw, then you would do the exact same as them. You are capable of the totality of human behavior and of the human experience. And human beings are capable of some truly heinous, atrocious shit, which means you are capable of some truly heinous, atrocious shit. And this information, that I am truly capable of evil, has been one of the biggest shifts in my maturation as a human being. To know that the line between good and bad runs through the center of my heart has been incredibly healing for me. And this was part of the process that I went through on ayahuasca. The ayahuasca takes you down to face your own shadow, to face the evil within you, and to recognize that that is a part of you just as much as, you know, the good part of you that you like the world to see. And learning how to balance that shadow and that light and bring them together in your personality is how you achieve wholeness. And the reason that this is one of the greatest gifts, by the way, is that when you can look at the worst people in society, the murderers, the people that are bombing your house, the people you hate, the Trump supporters, and you see yourself reflected back at you, then that is where you learn true compassion, in my opinion. That is when you understand the totality of what it means to be a human being in the world. And I'm going to leave you with an excerpt from a poem by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's called Please Call Me By My True Names. I am a mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond, and I am the grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks, and I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl refugee on a small boat who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a pirate, and I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people, dying slowly in a forced labour camp. Please call me by my true names, so that I can wake up and the door to my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. Thank you.